history on this, because when I looked through, he was a gaffer on that. So he wasn't like, he didn't do many
knew his shit.
Yeah, he only did a couple DP roles. But I like that the first time he met Kubrick, they had an argument. So he's like, I had been working at Lee's Electrics, a huge rental house now owned by Panavision, and Kubrick had been using Lee's services. He needed some electrical aid on the Clockwork Orange, and I was put on as a gaffer, which is big. Like a gaffer.
Yeah, that's no joke.
Yeah. And then immediately I faced off with him over equipment he had requested. So he's like, I bought him items I thought were the best. And he's like, well, I want these. He's like, well, I'm not working with you if I want to use those, because those are crap. We're using these. Kubrick liked his frankness. Kubrick was like, oh, wow. And then he talked to several first-rate cameramen. He's like, not that he was a terrible fella. He wasn't at all. Just that people were intimidated by him. And so he looked at Kubrick like, this is better. We're using this. And then he went on work on, like, Barry Lyndon and beautiful movies. Well,
you also got to think at the time, Clockwork Orange, is not what we see it as now. It wasn't even that popular of a book.
Yeah.
So, bought the rights for $500.
Mm-hmm.
But Kubrick, I think at the time when that came out, he had just done 2001: A Space Odyssey. So he wasn't really, that was a celebrated film, but it wasn't like, he's the big hot name now. So it was just kind of like, he was a genius. So it's like if he would just be like, okay, but you see what I'm saying? Like the conflict there, if you were to be like, I know it, like I'm a genius, and this guy's like, hey, look, man, you're shooting shit wrong. I'm going to help you out. I think I would probably listen to that.
And the guy did something smart too. He didn't question his filming techniques. He just said, these are better. Let's use these. And I thought it was pretty cool how he got this job. He said he solved the problems for how to make a film about making of a movie. He said in color, he's like, and make it seem seamless with the original. So he figured out how to blend color with the recreation shots from Nosferatu.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, I suggested using yellow filters and old style arc lights that gives off a yellowish glow instead of just muting the colors.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting. And then he used a new Kodak stock, which was very grainy, so it just made everything look older. Great idea. Yeah.
And you don't even notice. He points to the director Ilias Merhi.
Yeah.
He points this out in the commentary, saying that you don't even really notice when he blends in original footage from Nosferatu with this, and it's like you really don't. It's a couple of shots in particular that I recognize, but other than that, you really don't notice it. They really did mix it well.
What were some neat things you got from the commentary?
One thing, Elias, he's very pretentious. He's very much full of himself. I noticed that when he talks about the opening of the movie with all these different doors opening, and he's talking about birth and death and how these doors opening are supposed to symbolize that we are shedding off the old and giving birth to the new. And I was like, didn't quite get that, but all right, I'll buy it. But he talks very much like that. But then again, he recorded the commentary when this was still in the theaters. Yeah. So that he's still very fresh, and I'm sure he has a different perspective on his films now, which I would love to hear. But maybe they'll do a 20th anniversary of this next year. Who knows?
Did he say anything about Dafoe being? I think Dafoe's such a good actor. He doesn't have to go method.
No, he didn't mention that at all, which is what I always thought was, did Dafoe do the same Max Schreck thing? And he doesn't mention it. So I think that it's kind of bullshit, but who knows?
I don't think he did.
But he talks about how he had Willem Dafoe. He originally wanted to have Willem Dafoe. Sorry, let me just say this real quick, that Willem Dafoe was 5'9". The Max Schreck is 6'3". So he wanted to actually create Max Schreck. So he gave him these platform shoes so he would be 6'3". Because if you watch Nosferatu, there's a noticeable difference in height.
He's a big dude.
He's a big dude. So Willem Dafoe, he had him wearing these platform shoes, a corset, and then he would have him wear this heavy jacket, prosthetics on his hands, prosthetics in his head, everything, ears, nose, the full thing. And he's like, that is not easy to move around in. But Willem Dafoe makes it look so effortlessly. Like, he looks like this is actually him.
Yeah.
So he celebrated that. But he didn't say anything else other than that.
It seemed like a lot of his movements pained him when he was walking.
Well, seems like it would in real life. He's trying to believe, you're trying to believe him as a vampire.
An old vampire who can't remember he could ever make other vampires.
And he's also very depressed. He's reading a poem about a man who has immortality, but he's also decaying. Like, he's not stuck being young. That's the poem that he recites. I forget Tennyson's, I forget the name of it.
And when he walks into rooms, people are like, do you smell that?
Yeah.
So he's decaying.
They're repulsed by him too. He comes into the room and, maybe it's one of the more beautiful things of Willem Dafoe's interpretation of the vampire is whenever, after everything is done filming, he starts cranking up the reel and he's looking at a video being shot of the outside.
Yeah.
And he's looking at it and he's so in love with it. And we watched the scene again. It's like a 2-minute scene, but he's watching it going like, he looks at it like a child, and you can even see like his hands go and tries to grab the sun in the video. And it's like, that's beautiful.
And when they ask him for, what do you want most in life? I would love to see the sunlight.
Yeah.
And so that's how he gets that motivation in his eyes. But he's also a little shit.
Yeah, he's a little pain in the ass. I give him that.
But
he did cut the cord on the thing, and it's like, there's a real World War II bunker.
Oh, wow. Nice.
That's what they shot it in.
Yeah, over in Germany.
Luxembourg.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know, for $8 million to get the actors that they got and to shoot in 6 weeks, this is an impressive job by this guy.
Yeah. I mean, John Malkovich was a big name at the time. Willem Dafoe was a big name. Udo Kier, who's literally been in everything. Look at his resume. You're like, he has 40 movies still coming out. You're like, he's going to be like, why is this?
He doesn't even know what movie he's on anymore. He just shows up and which movie is this?
He looks I watched a movie not that long ago where he was it was like in the 70s, and I was like, holy smokes, he looks the same. Like, he hasn't aged at all. He's almost 80 now.
Well, if you think about it,
the same.
Carrie Ells too.
Well, he's changed drastically due to the surgery, but
and then there was actually Willem Dafoe still looks young too.
Willem Dafoe still very much looks the way he does.
Ageless wonder.
It's amazing how he looks. I mean, he still has that goblin face, but what's interesting I read about Willem Dafoe was that he always wanted to play like a romantic character. He said that he keeps getting typecasted because of the way he looks.
And then he gets an Antichrist about a relationship. And then that movie goes cutting all.
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Chaos reigns.
Whew. I saw that movie after.
Hey-oh.
I saw that movie and I was like, well, my weekend is ruined.
Yeah.
That's like Requiem for a Dream, but
I'm gonna go home and cry
with 2 people. Oh my gosh!
No, but I guess what was your? So you bought this movie back? I guess
2000, 2001.
I mean, I don't know how I came across this movie. I think I remembered that he got nominated for an Academy Award. So I'm like, I'm going to watch this movie. And I hadn't watched Nosferatu yet. So when I watched it, I didn't even have the background, but I still fell in love with it. But now that we've worked in the industry for many years, filmmaking industry, I know a lot more about Nosferatu. This movie's even better.
No, yeah. Nosferatu's a phenomenal film. It's one of the greatest of all time. Interesting little note. One of my favorite artists, Argyle Goolsby, is doing a whole new score to Nosferatu that's coming out next year.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, he's been posting a lot of videos on his Instagram. I was like, what?
That'd be fun to listen to.
Yeah.
All right, now, I was kind of, and there's also some scenes I loved with when Carrie Ells made his introduction, they were talking about the camera. He's like, what kind of lens? 35 millimeter. And they were running at like 15 frames per second back then, which is pretty interesting. And they couldn't really gauge. There was no, it was a hand crank. So, but they also didn't quite know how fast they were going. They kind of had to play it.
That's the problem with a lot of silent films, and that was the beauty of the movie, the documentary that Peter Jackson just did, They Shall Not Grow Old.
Oh, I love that.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to watch it today. But you were at the mercy of the person who was cranking it. So if they were like really jacked up and they were going fast, the movie was sped up, and if they got tired, then the movie got a little slower. So it was hard to gauge that. So
I love how Fritzy, played by Carrie Ells, shows up and he's like, yeah, I want to run it in slow motion. Like, how do you do that? He's like, well, you crank it really fast. And then you slow it down. You play it at the normal thing, and it looks. And all the camera guys there were like, "What?"
That was a brand new technology.
But I love just it was basically just a 35 millimeter for almost everything. Then put the iris in, shoot, and I love he pulls up, shoots the gun. He's like, "Was it a clean gate?" And I'm like, "Yeah, gate's clean." He's like, "Great, we got the shot."
It's interesting. The director points out in the commentary was that planes at the time were mainly just used for war. So whenever he came flying in, people were scared shitless. Yeah. I mean, in the movie, they would be. So then you got to imagine this plane just came flying in. Dude jumps out, shoots his gun. If you're a villager, you're like, ah! So that's
what is happening?
That's why if you watch the scene, everybody's kind of panicked because they're supposed to be. Because they think that they're under attack. So it's just like, ah!
Yeah, because you think about it, right? So when they filmed this, 1918,
When was film? Yeah, it was filmed in 1921.
1921. I mean, World War II, you really started using the planes for Red Baron, right?
But no, that was World War I.
World War I. But
World War I, that just happened. Yeah. I mean, it just ended not that long ago.
But they had planes involved in warfare. So people living in, Germany where they filmed, correct? Where'd they go to film?
Well, this was filmed in Luxembourg. I can't remember off the top of my head.
But you're right. Everyone there, they see a plane.
They would have been scared.
This is the worst day of my life.
Yeah. You would have been like, holy crap. Like, what's this plane?
Not again.
The guy jumps out, shoots his gun. I would be pretty terrified.
The Germans are coming.
What? You mean our neighbor?
Yeah.
I mean, that's because they're in Germany.
Not again. Wait, the Germans are coming for us? We're German.
Like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Why are they attacking us?
And I also love in this movie how a lot of people were annoyed that he actually went on location for this. Because, a lot of the films, I mean, they definitely had backlots. You watch some of these movies like Robin Hood before, like the original Robin Hood, they had built massive sets.
Yeah, there was because filming was still brand new technology. You have to remember that the first movie had come out 30 years prior to this. Yeah. The very first. So it was still very much in its infancy. And
the lamps you have control of inside, outside.
Exactly.
The colors. How's it, because everything.
They couldn't shoot at night either. That's why that was a big thing. Whenever you notice that little conversation they had, was like, why are we shooting at night? We can't see any of this because they didn't have the technology yet to create the light. So what they would do in movies, silent films, and up until not that long ago, I mean, never mind. But anyways, they would shoot it during the day and they would filter it in blue. Yeah. So that's why if you watch a lot of movies from the 60s and 70s, you'll see that you're like, well, there's still clouds in the sky. How is this night?
And like what, day for night or night for day?
Yeah.
They did that on the latest Mad Max too.
They did that on, 28 weeks later?
Kramer versus Kramer.
Kramer versus Kramer.
I also love the producer of this, Udo Kier, when he walks up to the first set and he's like, who built this? I didn't give approval for this. Who got money for this? And he had put out a generator and lights that night, Malkovich, or Murnau. Mm-hmm. But I liked how the producer got mad. Like, you didn't tell me about this. And they had lights out there with the lamps.
You know what's interesting? He's playing Albin Grau, who was the producer and costume designer for Nosferatu. And that was Albin Grau's first movie.
Wow.
And that was his first. Actually, I thought that was really interesting because I looked him up. I looked up all the real people. But Udo Kier was 66 years old when he made Shadow of the Vampire. And Albin Grau was 38.
Hey.
There was a lot of age differences actually in this movie. But that one I thought was probably the most interesting.
Well, also, Malkovich was older than...
He was 46 when they did this. Murnau was 33. Willem Dafoe was 45. Max Schreck was 42. So that's not that too bad.
This is classic great horror. You have John Carpenter out there in Halloween. Jamie Lee Curtis buying her own outfits. They have one bag of leaves. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have Wes Craven working, Last House on the Left. You have Blair Witch Project. You have Paranormal Activity. A bunch of these young people getting together, making these
movies,
cheaper films.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it makes sense that some people would go on location.
Yeah,
and they find a method actor.
It would be easier for you because you don't know how renting out a stage and then having it built is way more expensive. And then not only that, but what I liked about Shadow of the Vampire was that Elias says that this movie was shot a lot in a real castle from the 11th century. Yeah. So he said that they were like, we can build this all on a soundstage. And he said he wanted to do it on location because he felt that movies that are shot on location, there's the actual location becomes a character in the movie. Which is true because you actually feel like you are in this, you're trapped in this castle. Not trapped, but I mean like you're in a castle.
Absolutely.
And you feel like the place is a part of the movie.
Do you want to hear some pretentious knowledge? So that movie Roma. So I teach a production design class, and BAFTA every year, they bring all the production designers together, and they do a big hour-long interview with all the production designers. It's really fascinating to listen to. It's on YouTube. Just type in BAFTA production design. And the production designers for Roma, I just thought something was interesting. They had a bunch of non-actors on Roma, and they went on location, but they had to build sets on those locations. But they didn't just build the cheapo sets that we're used to that you can just break walls away and do all that, because he shot in order. The movie, Alfonso Cuarón shot Roma in order. So the first scenes at the house, the last scenes in the house, a year goes by, it still has to be built. But what they did was they bought real tile. They brought like everything real, expensive. They made it seem permanent. So when the non-actors who were acting felt the tile on their feet or felt that, it helped them because they weren't in a stage. Does that make sense?
No, that makes complete sense.
I think this movie's aided by that as well. It just looks... Ebert had a great comment. Did you read Ebert's review?
I did.
I love that he wrote, there are shots that look the way moldy basements smell.
I wrote down that quote. I love that because it's like, yes, it does. It's absolutely true.
Yeah, and there's a couple... I mean, the guy, it's his second job as a DP. Elias, the director, hadn't done too much before. Stephen Katz moved on. The writer moved on to The Nick, some other really big shows. But they weren't that experienced making this.
No, Elias did a bunch of Marilyn Manson videos.
Yeah, right before this, yeah. But that's good, though, because it teaches you how to move. Not like move quick on a video.
Yeah, music videos shoot like lightning fast speed.
So I think that helped